Okay, so this is me telling some of these stories that my friends wrote in, or some of my own stories of spooky or creepy or unexplained things that they've experienced. Some of them are kind of ghosty, some of them are kind of witchy, like just kind of various things. I just wanted to do a few of these to get in the mood for the season because it's my favorite season, and as far as I'm concerned, it's already started because it is my life. Halloween for life. So I'm going to go ahead and start with a story from my friend Lan, who he wrote in a couple of days ago, just like on text message, so you don't have to get fancy with it. Just give me your stories and I'm going to tell them. This one's really short. He said, when I was about 8 or 9, I used to sleep with the covers over my head. Problem is that it makes me thirsty and hot. So one night I got up and I pulled the covers off, and there was this ghost girl standing in my hallway. So I start screaming, and my mom comes rushing in the room. And I tell her what I saw, and she says simply, "Oh, so you've seen her too." Also, we had incidents where my bathroom would smell like perfume and feel like somebody was in the bed with you. For me, that is the creepiest thing. The idea of somebody being in the bed with you, like the feeling of somebody in the bed with you when you know there's nobody else there. That is really, really creepy. So, yeah. Thank you, Lan, for writing me. My own stories span from like when I was really young. So I'm going to tell a small anecdote about somebody named Pat Monahan. I have no idea if he was a real person, or, I mean, I assume that there are probably people named Patrick Monahan. But my family, my dad's family, in fact, the Morrises, used to have, or probably still do, this story about this guy. They didn't really tell a story. They would just do this thing. So I remember one of the best times, one of the most exciting times, was, well, my family, the Morrises, have a house in Lafayette, in Indiana. And it's like a really old town. Apparently half of it's like a college or something, but we never went there. We stayed in the old area of town, and they have this house, which is actually this really great old house, though it was really creepy. The room that I stayed in, I always felt like somebody was gonna like jump out of the closet, and it had like creepy old like Indian wallpaper, like the cowboys and Indians wallpaper. And every time I took a bath, because they didn't have a shower, it was this old clawfoot tub, every time I took a bath I felt like somebody was watching me. I'd like take a bath, and I was really young, so it's really creepy. And my mother felt like somebody was standing behind her when she was doing dishes in the kitchen. And it was only when she was doing dishes in the kitchen. Like any other time she never felt like somebody was behind her, but when she was doing dishes she did. And then she would smell pipe tobacco, like pipe smoke, or maybe cigar smoke, just like kind of sweeter than regular cigarettes. And she would just smell the smoke, and then it would just go away. And I know that stuff stays in the wood maybe, but it would just go away. It was actually kind of creepy. So that was that house. We went to go visit our family in Lafayette one year. And it was around Halloween when we did this one year. We went, I think, another time, but at this point it was around Halloween. And the family loves to spend Halloween, hero! Anyway, so the family likes to stay for Halloween, and they like to do this thing where, and we did this in a bunch of different houses, so it wasn't just this one time in Lafayette. But they would go outside in the backyard, and they would face a certain direction, which I want to say is west, but I'm not sure. And they would yell, "Pat Monahan, are you still in limbo?" And I guess the idea is that he was still hanging out as a ghost and not actually, like, you know, moving on or something. But they would yell, "Pat Monahan, are you still in limbo?" And then someone would answer, "I'm over here." I always assumed it was a family member that had like run off like down the block or something and would yell back. But because we did it in every house we lived in, from Florida to Michigan to in this one time in Indiana. And apparently it's a family thing, so everybody does it. And especially on Halloween, because it's the only time you can do it, I guess. I don't know. I don't know who Pat Monahan is, but I know that I liked when my family would talk about it, so it was always fun. Yeah. So I'm going to go on with another story from Melanie. She wrote it on my Facebook page, so if you were on it, then you probably saw it, but it's still a really good story. So she starts with, I worked at Greenfield Village in Dearborn, Michigan for 5 years. This place is full of old houses that have been relocated. I found this blog that recounts some experiences. And then I'll include the tag. Yeah. I will say, in working there, our lunchtime breaks were often filled with ghost stories that employees would share from their experiences there. It was awesome. I never had any myself, but there were a few houses I wasn't too keen on spending time alone in. Being during the winter, the sun would set before closing, and it got spooky at times. My favorite ghost story I was told, however, involved the birthplace of the Wright brothers. The presenter was in the house, and it was near closing. They had a couple people in there and were giving them the story. Doop, doop. I don't know why it works like this. Much better. They had a couple of people in there and were giving them the story of the house when they saw a flash from upstairs and then another. The presenter went upstairs to find nothing there. Apparently the next week, an ancestor of the Wright brothers came to the village, bringing some old photographs they found that were taken in the home. Apparently they found them on the same day that the presenter saw the flashes from upstairs. Whether the story is true or not, I like it. Another one involved the Sarah Jordan boarding house, which is one of the ones I hated being alone in. If I had to work that house, I'd often hang out outside on the porch. There was apparently a time in the past where, for about a week, the presenter would come in and open up in the morning to find the beds unmade, like someone had slept there. Apparently, security cameras were put in, and to see if anyone was breaking in, but they weren't, and the beds were still turning up unmade. Again, a break room story, but I do know how that house made me feel. I'm not great at reading stories yet. I'll get better. Anyway, thank you so much, Melanie, for writing that in. That's actually really exciting. I love all those old houses and the idea that they relocated these houses. Yeah, I can see that would stir a lot of stuff up. That's pretty creepy. I myself never lived in a relocated house of any sort that I know of. But I do have another really good story from my friend Sammy. She wrote into this podcast that inspired this idea of mine called realghoststoriesonline.com. I highly suggest you check them out because they're actually just really fun, and there are hundreds of stories if you like this idea, and better done because I'm terrible at this. So, Sammy said in one of her stories, is actually one of my favorites that wasn't written in, my next experience was after I moved to LA, because the other story is much longer and I'm going to put it in another one. So, my next experience was after I moved to LA. I was walking with some friends, and we were walking towards our apartment, and we were walking past this building that had pillars holding up the front overhang. On the other side of them was this guy walking. Brown shoes, gray suit, red tie, black hair. He carried a brown briefcase. A nice-looking fellow. He was checking his wristwatch and looking to be in a hurry. This was at 2 a.m., and he was dressed for work. We get to the end of the pillars, and there's no guy. I stop the group. I start looking around. Everything is closed because it's 2 a.m. There's no side streets, and I'm like, did you guys see him? And they said, see who? And I said, the guy that was walking alongside our group on the other side of the pillars. And they said, no. And I said, how? He was right there. He was keeping pace with us, but wasn't watching us or looking at us. Come on. Everyone thought I was nuts. And the guy's hair was perfectly coiffed, too. I like this because Sammy gives a lot of detail of the guy. She clearly saw this man, a very specific look, a very specific outfit, who was in a hurry, checking his wristwatch, carrying a briefcase, very clearly saw this person, who then just, poof, disappeared. Didn't go into a building, didn't turn a corner, just disappeared off of the ledge of this building. Not ledge, but stairway. It was very exciting. I'm going to go ahead and finish this with a story of my own. This is actually probably one of my creepiest ones. We used to live in this house on Burnham Road in Battle Creek, Michigan, near Roosevelt Elementary. It was an older house, but not super old. 2 floors, and there were 4 bedrooms upstairs and 1 bathroom, which is insane. So we had, it was like this L. So the stairs were over here, and then You would walk down a hallway and then walk down another hallway to get to what was my room at the time. I ended up sleeping in 2 of the different rooms, but the one room I was staying in at the time, I was pretty young, and it was like this little, you know, room, rectangle room, near the end, and my door actually was, if you walked down the hallway, it was on the left, and then right in front of you would have been another door that went to a different room. One we barely used for anything at all, but sometimes we would use it for like storage or something. But it also went into one of our attic rooms. We had 2 attic rooms for some reason that were like behind closets. And so one of the closets in this other room would go into the attic, or the attic room. So this other room, we barely used it for anything. Nobody was ever in it. Not at this time anyway. And I would sleep, because my bed was like right here and then the door was right here. So I would sleep with the door open, the hallway light on, and we always put this a table, like a folding table, in the doorway to keep the cats from coming in, because eventually my parents would come in and shut the door and, like, you know, whatever. But this is how I would fall asleep, just with the light on. My parents had a big party that night, so they were all downstairs. There was a whole bunch of them. They'd be kind of loud. I don't remember what it was, but it was at least like 8 o'clock at night, so they're having an adult party with drinking and whatnot. And I was like 8 years old, and so I was, you know, going to bed. And I'm laying there, and I'm like having trouble sleeping for some reason, and staring out into the very bright hallway, because my room was dark, but the hallway, of course, was very bright and big yellow lights. And I'm staring at the doorknob for the room across the way, the one that was on the wall, like vertical to mine. And I'm staring at this door and at the doorknob, and I start to feel like I'm watching it move, but I'm also, without knowing what it is, aware of what, you know, matrixing is. I'm thinking, maybe I'm just imagining it moving because I've been staring at it for a long time and not thinking about it, and now it just looks like it's moving because my eyes are playing tricks on me. And then I start to listen. And while, yes, my parents were having a big party downstairs, so I'm hearing that most of the time, and the music, and people yelling and screaming and having a good time, I'm also hearing what sounds like a rattling, or like a click. And now I'm convinced I'm going crazy. I'm 8 years old, and I'm pretty sure that I'm seeing something that is physically just not happening. So I get up, and I'm like in my pajamas, and I shuffle over to the door, and I put my hands on the table that's in the doorway, and I lean over, and I look at it. And the doorknob is rattling. It's rattling like somebody's trying to get out. It's like somebody's grabbed the other side and is just shaking it. I freaked out, and I ran back to my bed, jump in my bed, throw my blankets over my covers, and I actually fell asleep pretty quickly, weirdly enough. But that definitely happened. I thought that I was crazy, or that I was seeing things, but my family has always been really open to the idea of the other world or ghosts or whatever.